ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्र्यचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ वर्स 54 यल्लाभान्नापरो लाभः यस्सुखान्नापरं सुखम् यज्ञानात्नापरं ज्ञानं तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत्। So Shankaracharya ji has discussed Jnana Phalam, of course, in the last three verses before this verse number 54, and that Jnana Phalam will be of two types, Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. And Shankaracharya ji defined Jivan Mukti as Ajnana Nivrutti, one who is no more ignorant about himself, and then from also from he is free from this Ahankara and Mamakara also, a sense of individuality. And then he talked about Videha Mukti also in verse number 53 by giving three examples that as the water merges into water, and the Chaitanyam which is enclosed within the Upadhi merges into the all-pervading Chaitanyam, etc., etc. So this is way examples also have been given, or the space, the part space merges into total space. So in this kind of a merger, basically there is no transformation or a movement, and that he conveyed through the example of especially part space merging into the total space. Now, having said this much, from verse number 54, Shankaracharya ji talks about the glory of moksha. We call in Sanskritam as a Jnana Mahima, glory of knowledge also you can say, or glory of moksha. So Atma Mahima you can call, or you can call it Jnana Mahima, either way. So normally moksha is connected as one of the Purushartha in a common parlance. But Shankaracharya ji basically wants to remove that misconception and sing the glory of moksha. I mean, there are two things. Moksha can be presented in two different ways. And one way is moksha is the greatest Purushartha. Other Purusharthas are inferior. This is one way we can represent moksha. So, Dharma Purushartha in terms of Punya, etc., or Arthakama Purusharthas are inferior. Moksha, we call it as a Parama Purushartha. So, you can represent moksha in this way, or else moksha is not the greatest Purushartha. When you say greatest, means you are taking into account other Purusharthas also. Compared to that, this is greatest. And therefore, then the status of the moksha as a pursuit, we are bringing it down. If you call it as a greatest, then what? What is the second way of representing moksha? Well, moksha is the only Purushartha. That's all. Moksha is the Only Purushartha. There are no Purushartha called Artha, Kama and Dharma, etc. They are called Purushartha Abhasaha. Purushartha, they are look like Purushartha, but they are not the Purusharthas. Why you are saying like this? Well, basically all other Purusharthas are pursuits in which there are accomplishment in terms of security, in terms of pleasures, in terms of punyam, etc. Well, person gains. But basically whatever you gain in terms of security, they are not giving you security. Like more, you look upon money as a source of security. So more money, more security. No. Like then you look upon relationship as a source of security. Well, so more relationship, more secure. No. So could you follow? Therefore, we call these Purusharthas. I mean, it's a pursuit of security basically. All this. But they are not giving you security. Therefore, these pursuits are just abhasa. They are fake Purusharthas. Like property. More property, more security. No. That's not the case. More property, more insecurity. Maybe. And so, more influence, more security. No. More power, more security. No. So basically, anything you take, you equate money, power, relationship, influence, property, position, they are all equated as a security. And that becomes a pursuit in my life called Artha Purushartha. Well, but they don't give you. You look upon them as a source of security, but they don't give you security. And therefore, basically, they are fake pursuits. So that is how it is like, saying, a boy. His birthday is there today, suppose. And he prostrates to his father. And his father doesn't know actually. So, but he has got a $100 bill, but which is counterfeit. The poor man doesn't know. And he gave it to the child. Okay, whatever you want to buy, toffees and these and what chocolates and so I'm giving you the money. Well, and so boy has gained the money, but it is as good as not gaining at all. It's a fake currency. Could you follow that? The same way all these three Purusharthas are there. Why I call Dharma in terms of Punyam? Well, basically Dharma in terms of Punyam, by which you are going to encash the Punyam with the help of future Arthakamas only. And therefore, basically Dharma in terms of Punyam as etc. also is not going to be helpful. That is also not a pursuit. So they are mithya or unreal Purusharthas. And therefore we say, well, so two ways of representing moksha. Well, we say, don't say that moksha is the greatest Purushartha. In fact, Shankaracharya ji wants to convey in this verse number 54, that moksha is the only Purushartha. That's what it says. And well, definitely, and after accomplishing any other pursuits, well, one's status does not get improved, really speaking. Because one's status is a finite status. And you add by getting those pursuits in terms of security or pleasures, objects of pleasure you get objects of security also, you earn a lot of punyam, but they are all basically finite. Your status was finite before you got all these things, and after getting also your status remains finite. So your status also they don't improve. That's how they are fake Purusharthas. At least if they are really there, they should improve your status, but they don't improve. Still you feel the same, you are the same complaining fellow. You are the same, you means I am talking in general. Don't think you people you are all having a moksha Purushartha. So, but I am saying the person who is behind all these three Purusharthas, basically his status remains same. Same complaining, same unhappiness, same anxiety, same sad, in fact more. Earlier he was free from all anxiety and other things. Now he has to take a tablet for sleeping also, and have so many things. So basically Acharya wants to convey that there is only one Purushartha, and that is moksha. And that's how we read also in the Puranas, all these stories of Indradi, Devatas, etc. And they enjoy exalted position, etc. compared to us. We feel also envy of them. But definitely, they even after gaining that status, Indra status or whatever status, Devata status, well, they say they remain same insecure person. They have same insecurity and fear and unhappiness and same anxiety in everything. So, well, if Indra has all these problems, what improvement he has got after gaining the position? No, no improvement. Same person. That is how they don't add to really your status. That's how it is fake thing. Like you add 0 to any number, like 4 plus 0, it remains 4. That's how it is. If it is some substantial number 1, 2, 3, etc., then the number will be improved. 4 plus 2 becomes 6. But definitely, if you are finite before gaining all this, pursuits, and still you are the same finite fellow, then what is the difference? That's how they are fake Purushartha. Purushartha Abhasa. This is the first step in before person enters into Vedanta. This is a very, very crucial step, very crucial, which we call it as a Purushartha Viveka. That's how Sadhan Chatushtaya Sampatti is essential for gaining knowledge of Vedanta. So before entering into Vedanta, basically Atmajnanam, one should have a Sadhan Chatushtaya Sampatti. In Sadhan Chatushtaya Sampatti also the first thing is this Viveka, and that Viveka is this Viveka. Purushartha Viveka. But Swamiji, how can you say Devatas had fear? Well, Upanishad says that Bhishasmad Vatah Pavate Bhishodeti Surya Bhisha Agnischendrascha Mrityur Dhavati Panchama iti. All the 5 Devatas were talked about. Bhishasmad Vatah Pavate. Out of fear of Parameshwara, Vatah, Vayu Devata. So Pavate, he moves here and there, does his job, remains active. Bhishasmad Vatah Pavate Bhishodeti Surya. Bhisha Udeti Surya. Surya Udeti Bhisha. Bhisha means out of fear. B means there is a B. B means a fear. So Bhisha means out of fear. It's actually third case, but we have to take it that way. So out of fear, the sun rises and does its job. Bhisha Agnischa Indrascha, Indra, Agni, etc. all. And Mrityur Dhavati Panchamahiti. And this Lord of Death, Mrityu Devata, basically. Out of fear of Parameshwara. Runs here and there, does, all the time, 24/7 active. Mrityu Devata is active 24/7 and he has to go anywhere. He and his dutas, whatever, they have to be active and they have to go in the air also. They have to go either in the ocean also, and they have to go anywhere in the universe. Anyway, so all these Devatas, Bhisha, out of fear. So this is how even one gains a exalted position, etc. Well, but still we can call it a Artha Purushartha or whatever, Kama Purushartha. Either way, you can look upon this. Once you become Indra, you get a lot of objects of pleasure. Once you become Indra, definitely exalted position, and therefore you become more secure, etc. But then they have that insecurity and anxiety, etc. And they have a lot of suffering, basically, lot of suffering. And therefore, basically, they also have their status as a samsari remains, and therefore, these pursuits are not pursued. Moksha is the only pursuit. Now, in verse 54, we allow this 2 interpretation which we talked about based on the word aparaha. Aparaha. Aparaha word is there. If you see that, yallabhat na aparaha labha. Yat sukhat na aparam sukham. So that word apara makes us to interpret in 2 ways. One aparaha meaning is another. One meaning. And second meaning is great. 2 meanings are there. So yallabhat na aparaha labha we can interpret in 2 ways. So first is, let us take the word aparaha as a greater. So there is no greater accomplishment other than the moksha. This is the first meaning. Or aparaha means another. Means there is no other accomplishment other than the moksha. Means moksha is the only accomplishment. So others are fake purushartha that we discussed. So this is how the aparaha can be taken in both the ways. But we take it in one way. That is, there is no other Purushartha other than the Purushartha of a moksha. And same way, yat sukhat na aparam sukham, same, you can interpret in both the ways. There is no better sukham, there is no greater sukham, whatever, superior sukham, other than the sukham of Atma. Or there is no other sukham, there is no other sukham, there is no other happiness other than happiness of Atma. And in fact, that is the correct interpretation. That's a correct interpretation. The source of happiness is just Atma. There is no other source of happiness. There is no other source of existence, as we say. There is no other source of consciousness, we say, and there is no other source of basically Ananda also. Just a minute. And so this is how Vedanta says, because this is the nature of the Atma. And like wherever the heat is there, you have to understand the fire is there. There is no other source of heat other than the fire. Same way, there is no other source of happiness other than Atma. So Aparaha will take it as a another, no another source of happiness rather than greater, etc. When you say greater, then other sources are also there. We have to, like sense pleasures are there. Well, Atma is also source of happiness, and objects are also source of happiness. Basically, Atma as a source of happiness is better or greater. No, it's not that way. Well, the correct interpretation is the only source of happiness, or there is no other source of happiness. So Vedanta says that all sense pleasures are basically seeming sense pleasures. They are like, the child, enjoying by sucking one's own thumb. Either a human child, or I have seen even a baby monkey also. It is sucking one's own saliva by putting one's thumb in the mouth. It is sucking one's own saliva, but mistake it as a mother's milk, basically. So same thing. Here also, basically my own, happiness. Myself, I in fact manifest in the experience of joy, but not knowing my nature, there is a self-ignorance, and therefore, I definitely superimpose that happiness comes from that particular object, which has become just a nimitta, which has just, in presence of, definitely, your fullness has manifested, but you superimpose upon it. Like this baby monkey or human baby, definitely superimpose upon that saliva, that it as a source of mother's milk, basically. So they say this example actually has been narrated in one verse. Asare khalu samsare sukha bhrantihi manishinam lalapana iva angushthe balanam stanya vibhramat. So asare khalu samsare. The samsara means these objects, basically, all this world, objects of world, basically. Asaraha. Asaraha means it has no essence in terms of giving you happiness, etc. They are just mithya. Well, sukha bhrantihi, there is a bhranti, there is a superimposition of the happiness through that objects or in the objects. For whom it is? Manishina. Those people who know, basically the Atma is a source of happiness. They look upon these objects of happiness as a basically, superimposed happiness. Those objects are looked upon as a basically superimposed source of happiness. They are really not the source. And they give an example, Lala panahi va angushthe, balanam stanya vibhramat. Balanam, the human babies, etc. Lala panah, when it is sucking its own saliva, angushthe, in the thumb. Well, stanya vibhramat, they superimpose that they are taking stanyam. Stanyam means mother's milk. They superimpose like that. This is the second thing. So, yallabhat na aparaha labha. So there is no other accomplishment other than the accomplishment of infinite. And this is common sense actually. Once you gain infinite, what is compared to a gain of infinite? What can you compare with? You cannot compare. Any gain, if you, whatever you gain you have in your life, it's all finite gain. Once you understand that you are infinite and you gain that way, Atma, or you gain a infinite, or you gain a limitless, then nothing can be compared with that. So that is understood very well. Then it says, Yad jnanat na aparam jnanam. Same way we can interpret in both the ways. So there is no superior jnanam other than the Brahma jnanam. We can say one way also. Or greater jnanam other than Brahma jnanam. Or aparam can be translated as a other. So there is no other jnanam at all other than Brahma jnana. This is really a very big thing, very bold statement. There is no jnanam other than Brahma jnana. Because basically other jnanam is like a jnanam of a rope snake, really. It's a jnanam of a rope snake. So you choose to call it as a jnanam, but it is error or ignorance. It's other version of ignorance, really. When I look upon this object as a clip, somebody looks upon it as a clip, then the scientist may look upon it as something else, bundle of energy or matter or something. Maybe a bunch of cells or bunch of atoms, whatever. They say this, any solid thing, they say that like that. Any solid thing is nothing but all these atoms in a very, very fast movement. When they are in a fast motion, they appear like a solid entity. That's what they say. It's nothing but a bunch of atoms, molecules, whatever. Then who is right and who is wrong? Scientist also is basically wrong, in as much as this object is nothing but the manifestation of Asti Bhati Priyam or Atma, and that is the only jnana, we consider that way. And other than that, well, whatever you say, everything will be, every opinion about this, I say opinion, well, let's say a piece of knowledge. Every piece of knowledge about this, other than we call as Asti Bhati Jnana, Asti Bhati Priyam, other than whatever you call this object, is basically a new version of ignorance only. And that is how ignorance pertaining to the creation does not go. In fact, any scientist, when when he moves more goes deeper into any object, he finds a new area of ignorance are emerging. And that's how his ignorance does not go away. Even though we say, oh, he has a lot of knowledge of physics and this and that, but he says, well, I am very much ignorant because I don't know many things about this. Therefore, he remains ignorant. And therefore, whatever knowledge he has gained, really it is not a knowledge. Because knowledge means something which can remove ignorance permanently. That is what the jnanam is. Jnanam is basically which removes the ignorance, ajnanam. And therefore, well, definitely any other jnanam keeps your ignorance, intact. Or you feel that you are very much ignorant of the things. More you know, more you come to know that you don't know, etc. Right? So that is how Pujya Swamiji tells. So this is how it is. And therefore, Brahma Jnanam is the only Jnanam which knocks off your ignorance. Why? Any Jnani, Brahma Jnani will never say I am ignorant. He says I am all knowledge. And Shastra also calls him as a all knowledge. Yeah, so yesterday itself we saw he is called Sarvavit, right? He's a Sarvajna, omniscient in a secondary sense, but he knows. He says whatever you want to know in detail about this form, you know. I know the substance, basically. That's the reality of it. About form you want to know a date of birth and etc. and when it is manufactured and and what are the materials involved and this and that. But ultimately I know the material or the substance is Asti Bhati Priyam and about entire creation. And therefore he is for him he is no more ignorant about the entire creation. And so we say, well, Brahma Jnanam is the only Jnanam which knocks off ignorance forever. So all other are Mithya Jnanam. Basically they are just Ajnanam only, or version of Ajnanam, version of ignorance. So Tad Brahma iti dharayet, may you know it as a Brahman. May you know it as a Brahman whose knowledge is definitely the only knowledge. There is no other knowledge. Whose nature whose accomplishment is the only accomplishment. And whose nature is the happiness. There is no other source of happiness. Such a thing is called Brahman. Iti avadharayat means may you understand clearly that this is Brahman. Now verse number 55. Yad drashtva na param drishyam yad bhutva na punarbhavah yajñātvā na param gneyam tad brahmetyavadharayet. So Shankaracharya continues almost in the same way. As I told you, aparam word has a two meaning, superior or a greater, one meaning, and second meaning is another. So here also almost same thing like in the last verse. Yad drashtva na aparam drishyam. Having seen Brahman, there is nothing superior to see. Brahman is the most superior thing. Our Brahman is the superior thing. And in that interpretation, I accept other things also. There are other things to see, but Brahman is a superior to see. But instead, the second meaning will take, having seen Brahman, there is nothing else to see. Because there is no second thing at all to see. That's how. There is no second thing to see. That's what it has been told in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. Tat kenakam pashyet, kenakam shrunuyat, kenakam jigret, kenakam rasayet, kenakam manvita, kenakam vijaniyat, yattu sarvam atma eva abhut. For the person who everything has become Atma or a Brahman, for him, tat kenakam pashyet, what will he see by what? What will he smell by what? Everything has become Brahman. And therefore, there is nothing else to see because there is no second thing. So called second thing is not at all a second thing. He has understood that everything is Atma. Like pot cannot be called a second thing other than the clay. Same way. So name and form, he even after gaining knowledge of Brahman, these names and forms where he will see. Or any form, in terms of words, etc., he will hear, he will see, he will taste. All names and forms, but he knows the substance is one. Substance is one. What is a substance? Asti bhati priyam is a substance. So they say they are not substantial things. Substantial things mean basically it doesn't have any substance. So yad drashtva, there is nothing else. Na aparam drishyam means there is nothing else to see. Then second thing is yad bhutva na punarbhavah. Having become Brahman, now he has not to become anything. Person stops struggling to become something, to transform himself, etc. Because he has found that he is limitless and there is no transformation possible. And so unless he discovers that he or she is limitless, definitely this self-transformation goes on and on and on. It just goes on. And so, and knowing limitless ultimately means he has found a perfect peace, he has found a peace, security and comfort within oneself. And therefore for him there is nothing else he doesn't require to now change himself. No more self-transformation. As Pujya Swamiji called as a becoming. Basically, as a child, I was not happy. So I wanted to become like a daddy or something. Because a child has to do homework. And, mom and daddy goes to other people place and they talk to the neighbors and they go there. And I have to sit in the study also. And that I did not. Really, that was in my mind also. So I wanted to grow early, fast. So that like daddy also I can move around. Nobody can make me sit for homework, etc. And so you have, as a child also you wanted a self-transformation. You wanted to change yourself. Then from then I went to college and from undergraduate to graduate. I wanted to change. Once I became graduate, then still I want a change in myself to get a good employment, etc. somewhere. And I got a good employment. Now still I want a self-transformation because I am a bachelor. Now I have to marry. And therefore, in marriage also after you imagine, this is the story of a samsara. Samsara means what? Samyak sarati. Basically one is really sliding down till one, meets with her death. Till then, person keeps on transforming himself. Because what he really wants, he has not achieved it. So basically, well, in marriage also, after you marry, well, definitely, now I'm married, but I want to have a status of a parent. And so basically children. And then want to change status. And then self-transformation keeps on going. And then children also get married and I want to become a grandfather, grandmother, etc., etc. So basically, so much goes on and on. And so, and even in, while I was earning and saving money, etc., there also other change also I wanted. I want to become an owner of an apartment. And so there also. Keep on doing. I mean, he is ignoring the fact that he doesn't need a change. He doesn't need a change. One who has discovered that there is no change required in my life, that person has got dispassion. And he is the most qualified person for Vedanta. One who just doesn't want to change anything. Neither outside, neither in terms of physical body, neither his mind, neither his intellect, neither his emotion, nothing. Believe me, it is very difficult thing. The person who is very close to this moksha, for this jnanam I mean, is the person who has an orientation for not changing anything. Not the people outside, not situation, basically. And so it's a very difficult thing. So this self-transformation, as you keep on transforming yourself, you are basically ignoring the fact that you are limitless. You don't require to change. A limitless thing means no change is required. Any change which you bring about will remain at the level of a limited thing. And so basically hold this struggle of a self-transformation because I am not happy that I am not happy as I am right now. That's how. And therefore self non-acceptance is cause of this struggle. And people, and that's how employ different things, to they gain several things in terms of for that, so that they can accept themselves. But one should know that one is limitless, basically. So human struggle basically ends in self-discovery. One has to discover that self, which is limitless, which doesn't require a change. And you cannot bring a change in limitless. That's the thing. And therefore, whatever self-transformation we do, ultimately they remain superficial. What I want is basically limitless. If I gain at some point in time that limitlessness, well, definitely I stumble upon something limitless, I would stop. But limitless you cannot stumble upon. What you can stumble upon is always a limited. And limitless must be right now and at this point also, at this time, at this place, and covering myself also. And therefore definitely I am limitless. And so basically the self-transformation shows a samsara, a life of becoming, as Pujya Swamiji says. So yad bhutva, well, that says yad bhutva na punarbhavaha, having become Brahman, and well, all the struggle comes to an end in the life. I am at home with myself. That is the person who is at home with himself. So that is how Atmanyeva Atmana Tushtaha. Well, he is happy with himself. He has several problems. And his denture is not good, and he has got he might have got a cataract, and a lot of other problems are there. At a level of physical level, he's losing his memory also, perhaps. Well, and so yet intellectual limitations are there, physical limitations are there, and emotions also keep changing here and there, but still he doesn't consider himself a limited being, and therefore he doesn't require to change anything. So when I am not comfortable with myself as I am now, then definitely I want a change. And people keep doing it so much. Swamiji, my last child is still not married. In 2021 he is going to marry, and then definitely I will be happy. Then definitely if you meet after 2-3 years, in 2024 or something, you meet the person. Well, he says, Swamiji, I am expecting to, a child, I mean a grandchild, definitely. So this, man, it keeps on doing. This is how he wants to be. And you may feel that he is expecting a grandchild there, and therefore, well, what is a self-transformation? But he wants to be a grandfather or great-grandfather, whatever it may be. So basically, person definitely wants to change his status. And that is what it is indicated here. This process of becoming. So such kind of a person has that kind of orientation that peace will come tomorrow, security will come tomorrow, happiness will come tomorrow. Let this get over. Let me transform myself this much. Then everything will be settled. Then everything will be settled. Then everything will be settled. And you keep on listening. That day never comes. That day never comes. So no more process of becoming. The one Acharya has given a beautiful example of a puri. Puri. So when you put in that frying pan in the oil, and it runs here and there, it struggles a lot. But once that puri becomes a full puri, you will find all its struggle comes to an end. So when it bloats and it becomes a full puri, then whole struggle you will find at the one corner of the frying pan. It is staying there. Whole struggle comes to an end. This is how it is. So we are like puris, basically. Well, keep on running here and there, struggling in a process that one day I will become a full like a puri. But that day never comes. In case of puri, it comes, but in our case, it doesn't come. Why does it not? But why? What is the problem? Why do I not become limitless? Why do I not become limitless? Sir, you are already limitless. What can you do about it? You are already limitless. You are disowning the fact. And definitely what you can become will never be limitless also. That's one thing. Second thing is you are already limitless. Like Pujya Swami says, you have already one head. And if you ask Bhagavan to give you head, he says, I can give you double decker. But I cannot give you what you already have. And therefore, this is what the situation is. And that is why we are failing. For these three things we are failing. In terms of searching peace outside, we are failing. In terms of searching happiness, we are failing. And in terms of searching security, we are failing. That shows that the source must be somewhere else. Not in the objective world. But the subject must be the source. And the ignorance of this fact, makes me run here and there. And have a struggle in life. And it also involves the process of becoming, self-transformation. So this is yad bhutva na punarbhava. Then it says yad jnatva na aparam gneyam. Of course, we discussed this, almost repeated from the previous verse. There also we said that yad jnanat na aparam jnanam. Here also it says yad jnatva na aparam gneyam. Having known Brahman, there is nothing else to be known. Gneyam means known. And jnatva, having known. Yat jnatva means basically having known. Na aparam gneyam, there is nothing else to be known. So, this is very important. This is called there is a intellectual dissatisfaction. Some of the people, especially scientists, they have a tremendous intellectual dissatisfaction. And in order to get satisfaction at the level of intellect, they do several things. In the pursuit of knowledge itself indicate that. And there are various, at every level we have that kind of a thing. Like in terms of objects, people are missing certain things. They say, Swamiji, we don't have certain objects in my home. I want to get those things. So that is called basically, some people are missing certain things or lacking certain things in terms of gaining objects. Some people are missing, they are very rich, they have so many things in the home, but they are also missing something. What they are missing? Emotions they are missing. And they have a different type of a complaint. They have emotional pain. So, nobody loves me, etc. And nobody inquires about me. This is a very big thing. Inquiry is emotional pain. One should all the time inquire, how are you, how are you, how are you, how are you, how are you feeling today, etc. You have to keep on inquiring. If you don't inquire, one day it will burst into a big issue. And therefore you have to, people are not talking to me, people are not taking care of me, people are not basically loving me. It is also emotional pain. People are, materially they are very rich, but this emotional pain they have, emotional lack, emotional missing, etc. So emotionally lacking something. Some people are lacking in terms of, in terms of intellect also. Well, certain questions regarding fundamentals of life, they have not solved, and so they are restless. Why should Bhagavan created this? Why should Bhagavan create this world? So many people have asked this question. Why he should create this world at all? And where is he? After creating, where he has gone, etc. How is he? And why am I born? And what will happen after this knowledge? Will everything you are saying mithya, will everything gets melt and becomes, disappear? All these are all intellectual issues. So, basically some people are lacking in terms of intellect, some people are lacking in terms of emotions, some people are lacking in terms of other material things, etc. And so, glory of the Vedanta is it removes all the samsara in one stroke. All the issues go away. Because you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the senses, you are not the intellect, etc. And so, you become free from all these pains. So I am free from all these types of limitations. And so it says here, Yad Jnatva na aparam and by knowing Jeev, Jagat and Ishvara, everything is just me alone, Atma alone, just consciousness alone, pure consciousness. There is nothing other than the consciousness. There is, nothing other than the consciousness. There is nothing equal to consciousness, etc., etc. And knowing this, well, one becomes free from all the issues. Tad Brahma iti avadharayet, may you know this as a Brahman. Verse 56. Tiryagurdhamadah purnam Satchidanandamadvayam Anantam nityamekam yattat Anantam nityamekam yat Tad Brahmetyavadharayet. Now in the last two verses, verse 54 and 55, we talked about, whose accomplishment is the greatest accomplishment, whose knowledge is the greatest knowledge, whose nature is the happiness, there is no other source of happiness, etc. That is Brahman, we say it like that. Now here, that that Brahman, that whose nature has been talked about now here. So while defining this nature of Brahman, so we are not looking upon this Brahman as one of the entity as such. So description of the Brahman means description of the Atma as a complete self, as a limitless self, and who is, comfortable with this mithya body, with physical body, who is comfortable with whatever emotions are there, he is comfortable with that, who is comfortable with whatever type of intellect he has, and that is Brahman. What is the nature of that Brahman has been talked here, has been talked about. So Tiryak, Urdhvam, Adaha, Purnam, Tiryak means in all sides, Urdhvam, above, Adaha, below, means I am there, I am, who is Brahman, is there in all the sides, who is above, who is below, and who is in all the sides. Tiryak, Urdhvam, Adaha, Purnam. So everywhere I am pervading. How I am pervading? As a Satchidanandam, I pervade as existence. I give a being, I give a isness to everything. I give a isness to space, I give a isness to air, isness to fire, etc., etc. And I give isness to everything. The very isness, the being is me, and therefore you are all pervading. And as a consciousness, you are all pervading, everything is in consciousness, and therefore consciousness pervades everything. And so Chit and Ananda, well, I am basically complete. I am full, etc. I am limitless. Advayam, and so Satchidanandam, Advayam, I am one without the second. So there is nothing other than me. So it removes the Sajatiya Veda. There is no other consciousness other than me, etc. And this is simple to understand. Advayam is easy to understand when you take an example of a dream. Like waker remaining as a waker, non-dual waker, non-dual. There is nothing other than the waker. Yet it appears as a dreamer and dream world, both. So many objects in the dream world and the dreamer who is the experiencer of the dream world, both basically are nothing but just a waker. So waker can say, even though all these things have come out of me, but I am still a non-dual being. Same way, here also, the Brahman basically appears in all these names and forms. Satchidananda Atma appears in all these names and forms, but still Atma is Advayam. There is nothing other than the consciousness. No second thing is there. And Ekam, well, of course, before that it says Anantam. Anantam is limitless. Certain things are repeated here, but we should understand that they are repeated so that to reinforce the idea, because these are all our Nididhyasana shlokas. So some of the things will be repeated, but to basically reinforce the idea that what's the nature of a Brahman or Atma. So Anantam, limitless. Nityam, eternal, timeless. Because I am timeless. Time cannot touch me. I provide the being to the time. You say time is. The isness is me. That's how it is. You say time is. Present is. Okay. Isness is me. Past is. Isness is me. Future is. Isness is me. So, well, you divide time into any scale. But in that scale of a time, isness should be there. Right? Is you have to supply. That isness is me. So, the very being of the time, the truth of the time, we have discussed that before few classes. The truth of the time is consciousness. And therefore, Nityam, eternal. Time cannot affect me. I am timeless. Ekam, sajatiya vijatiya bheda rahita. So, there is nothing there is nothing like consciousness. Sajatiya bheda is not there. And there is no other thing other than the consciousness. I mean, we call as a jadam, etc., achetan, etc. That has been negated here. Chetan, achetan, nisheda. Everything is ultimately. But Swamiji, how the Atma pervades this? Atma pervades this as a Sat. Atma pervades this as a Sat. You say clip is. Okay, isness is Atma. That's all. The being of this is the Atma. That's how it is. But you say consciousness also pervades. Yeah, consciousness pervades it. That's how you are able to see. So, this is revealed by consciousness, and therefore consciousness pervades it. But you want to see this particular thing as a conscious entity. Well, that is not possible, because it doesn't have a subtle body. So consciousness cannot manifest into that. That's the only thing. Otherwise, you won't be able to see this object if consciousness does not pervade it, because it is not a self-revealing thing, right? It is not a self-revealing thing. It is evident to the consciousness, to the Atma. Atma reveals itself all the time. And Atma reveals everything in the creation. And therefore everything is basically get revealed, becomes evident, illumined by consciousness. And therefore consciousness has pervaded this. Existence has pervaded this. And therefore Satchit is pervading every object. And therefore I am all pervading. I am Anantam. And well, so Ekam, I pervade everything, and I am free from all this Sajatiya Vijatiya Bheda also. Tad Brahma iti avadharayet. May you understand this as a Brahman which is Anantam, which is Ekam, which is Nityam, and well, which is all pervasive, Tiryak, and Urdhvam, and Adaha, which is Purnam, etc., etc. These are the verses which one has to keep in the mind while doing Nididhyasanam, and one has to take one particular word out of the verse and try to meditate upon. Now verse number 57. Atadvyavrutti rupena vedantai lakshate dvayam akhandanandamekam yat tad brahmityavadharayet. So here also some of the words are repeated. Like in morning class we have seen, the Satyam has come again. Satyam ayatanam. Already we discussed that, the karma, etc., and then damaha, and then tapaha. Well, we said that satyam means tapaha, oral discipline. I mean, the level at the level of speech, there is a truth. That should be a truth. But still, it has been mentioned again in the mantra. Satyam ayatana, which is abode of everything, is this truth speaking is basically abode of everything. Abode of everything. It has been told like this. So it has been repeated. So that shows the importance of the satyam. Same way here also you find again this, akhandam, well, anantam, akhandam. Akhandam is there are no division. There are no division. Which are the divisions? Jnata, Jne and Jnanam. Or Karta, Karma and Karanam, etc. These kind of divisions are not there. One who is in the form of everything, but one who is distinct from all the three. That is how it is. Like in Mandukya, they used to discuss one who is in the form of Vishwa, Tejas and Prajna, but one who is distinct from all the three. That is how it is. That is called Turiya, etc. Same way, here Akhandam means there are no khandas. There are no divisions. Division in terms of Jnata, knower, known and knowledge, or Karta, Karma and Karanam, etc. Well, such one who is basically free from all the divisions. Anandam, Ekam, Anandam, well, fullness, happiness, nature, one whose nature is happiness. And so, here now in this verse 57 and the certain following verses, Shankaracharya ji shows that, whatever teaching he has told in this Atma Bodha is time-tested teaching. So it has been coming down from generations in the form of a sampradaya, and which is supposed to have originated from, the sampradaya has been originated either from Dakshinamurti, or either from Vishnu, or either from Brahma, whatever you say, ultimate Ishvara. So that sampradaya, who's the first teacher, must be the one who has not undergone a teaching process, right? One who is ignorant has to expose oneself to the teaching. Well, therefore the first teacher must be what? He must be Sarvajna, omniscient, therefore Ishvara. And therefore Ishvara is the basically from whom the whole sampradaya, the tradition has started. So Acharya says that whatever I have taught you regarding this Atma, etc., has a connection, has already come down to me also from this, from the Ishvara, from the beginning of the Ishvara to all these teachers from the Sampradaya. And so in now the few verses from verse 57 onwards to few verses, he connects his teaching to Upanishad. And he wants to show that, that he has not deviated. While teaching, he has not deviated from the Vedic Marga. So he points out, also here that this Brahman is very, very difficult to be revealed. So Vedanta uses a very ingenious method which has been used in the tradition. And that's method I have also employed. And that's the only method works to reveal the Brahman, to reveal the Atma. So we'll have to understand this, why it is not possible to reveal Brahman. Like I reveal this clip, I reveal a mobile, right? As a conscious being, this is revealed to me. Same way, Atma is not revealed. Atma cannot be revealed like this, like a clip and a mobile and whatnot, all objects. Why Atma cannot be revealed? So there are 2-3 reasons we will have to go through. First reason, there is something, I'm giving you certain reasons for why Atma is not revealed or Brahman is not revealed. It's not possible to reveal. First thing is, there is something which can reveal Brahman, then there is revealer-revealed relationship. Like, I am a revealer, a conscious being, I am a revealer and clip is revealed, right? So between me and clip, there is a relationship of revealer-revealed relationship. This is the first thing. When you say Atma or Brahman is Advayam, means there is no second thing at all other than Atma or Brahman, then where is the question of a revealer and revealed, right? Revealer, revealed means at least 2 things are required. So if Brahman is to be revealed, then there should be something else which works as a revealer to reveal the Brahman. You say Brahman or Atma is Advayam. There is no second thing at all And therefore Brahman cannot be revealed at all, because there is no other revealer other than the Brahman. And therefore the first reason is why it is not possible to reveal Brahman, because there is no other thing or no second thing other than Brahman. In case of this, well, I am there other than clip to reveal it. And therefore I say, well, clip is revealed by me. Revealed means you understand, right? Clip is known by you, or clip is illumined by you. So at least, well, the conscious entity other than this, well, is there. So in case of Brahman, it is not there. And therefore there is no other thing other than Brahman, and therefore Brahman cannot be revealed like a object, clip, etc. That is the one thing. Second thing is, well, when something reveals Brahman, then revealer is a means of knowledge, right? And revealed is called a, which is revealed. So, well, my eyes reveal, let's say, the object. So, my eyes are called a means of knowledge called Praman. And this object is, which is revealed or which is known, is called Prameyam. So, Pramana, Prameya Sambandha should be there. When this is revealed, this is known by you, well, definitely it is revealed by you, it is known by you through the means of knowledge. And therefore, means of knowledge called Pramanam, and the object which is revealed or known is called Prameyam. Pramana, Prameya Sambandha also is there. Well, you say your Atma, your Brahman is basically Asangam. And there is no other thing also. And you call it Asangam also, free from any relationship. So, where is the question of Pramana, Prameya Sambandha also? And so, there is no relationship called, Pramana, Prameya, or let's say Pramanam in our case, in Brahman it is words. So, words becomes a Pramanam, means of knowledge, and Brahman becomes Prameyam. So, object of knowledge. Well, that kind of relationship is not there. That's the second thing. Third thing is, Shastras have found out that words can reveal something only under certain conditions. What are the conditions? If object has a jati, then definitely words can reveal. Brahmanaha, when you say that word, Kshatriyaha, Manushyaha, and Vrikshaha, all these words I utter, and in your mind, a object is revealed, because by saying Vrikshaha, well, Vrikshatva Jati I am talking about. A Vriksha means a tree. A tree has a treeness. That's its Jati, species. A human being has a human beingness, humanness, etc. So that is how things are revealed by Jati. Brahman has no Jati, because not born at and therefore there is no Jati. If something is born, then it will have a jati. If it is not born, where is the jati? And therefore, definitely, Brahman cannot be revealed by the words pertaining to jati. There are words which denote jati. Those words cannot reveal Brahman. So, those words cannot become Pramanam, and Brahman cannot become Prameyam also, because they cannot reveal. Then Guna, attributes. Brahman is free from all attributes, and therefore, all the words pertaining to attributes, like big and small and fat and something, whatever, black or white and this, that, etc. So many attributes, and therefore all our attributes of our Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Brahman has you cannot touch Brahman. Brahman has no sound. Brahman doesn't have any form, no color. Brahman does not have any taste. Brahman doesn't have any smell. These attributes also you can take. Well, definitely, it doesn't have any kind of a guna, and therefore all the words pertaining to the guna, which denote guna, whose meaning is any attribute, those words also cannot reveal Brahman, because basically Brahman does not possess any kind of a attributes. That's another, second thing. Third thing, Kriya. Brahman is Nishkriyam, right, actionless, and therefore definitely Brahman cannot be revealed by a word which denote action, cannot be revealed. Sambandha, Brahman does not have any relationship with anything, And you know all these words which denote relationship, father, mother, this, that, etc. And if you want to know, well, words which denote action, and driver and cook, and these are the words which denote action, kriya. Such words in the language cannot reveal Brahman. Well, Brahman doesn't have any relationship. A limitless thing, what relationship will have? A limitless thing cannot have any relationship. There is nothing other than that to have a relationship. Anyway, so all the words fail. Words cannot work as a pramana, means of knowledge, to reveal Brahman as a prameya. It cannot become an object of knowledge for the words. Words cannot work as a means of knowledge. And Rudhi. Rudhi means Indriya Gocharatva, basically. Indriya Gocharatva means availability to the sense organs. What is available to the sense organ, you can give some name. And Rudhi also means a popular meaning. Certain popular meanings words are there. Well, it indicate a particular thing. Well, and that is how it is known. Like when I say Stroudsburg, well, definitely in your mind, Stroudsburg will appear. You won't say, Swamiji, what is that Stroudsburg? You won't tell me like, Swamiji, what is that Stroudsburg after this class is over? You won't ask me. Yeah, if I say Gagabuga, then definitely you will ask, what is that Gagabuga? But you will not ask me what is Stroudsburg. Means you know. And everybody knows. Rudi means is a popular. That this is a place. Stroudsburg means a place. Hawaii means there is an island, etc., etc. So same way. So this is how, these are certain words in the language which are popular and it has a popular meaning. Even though that way also it cannot be revealed by using a popular word, etc. So Brahman is free from everything. Brahman is free from jati, Brahman is free from kriya, Brahman is free from guna, Brahman is free from sambandha, and there is no popular word which is used for Brahman, etc., which can reveal Brahman through the word. Well, that is also not there. And so, well, only Vedanta has only words, and therefore words and the words cannot reveal this Brahman. So it is therefore what I am talking to you is, can you understand that? Basically, the tradition, Vedantic tradition, teaching tradition is using a special method to reveal Brahman through words. Even words cannot reveal it, but they use a certain special method by which words will reveal the Brahman. Why do you say words reveal Brahman? Because teacher is using words. For what? To reveal the Brahman. And not only teacher uses the word and to reveal Brahman, to give a knowledge of Brahman or Atma, even student also understand the words and gain jnana also. So it's a great wonder. The student and teacher, student understand the word, teacher employs the words, and definitely both know the Brahman. That Brahman which is not revealed by the words. Yato vacho nivartante. Well, the vacha, the words basically written without revealing Brahman, that Brahman is revealed through the words. What is that method? We'll talk tomorrow evening. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.